When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Welcome to the A World of Difference podcast. I'm Lori Adams Brown, and this is a podcast for those who are different and want to make a difference. Does it feel like your whole world has just been turned upside down? Are you having trouble remembering to drink water or eat? Does it feel like you're walking in quicksand? You can't even concentrate on normal things? You may be walking through trauma. There may be a crisis in your life or in your government that is causing you to feel that you don't know how to put one foot in front of the other. I have walked through times like this, and it really has helped me to walk with a professional therapist through these times. I highly encourage you to find a therapist, and at betterhelp.com/difference, you can get 10% off your first month today. I myself have benefited from a therapist I've worked with there. You can message your therapist in between sessions, go to extra courses around grief or trauma, find support groups, and also really have a person to help you walk through some of the most difficult parts of your life right now. You can get 10% off your first month today by going to www.betterhelp.com/difference. You deserve to heal. Welcome back to A World of Difference, where we celebrate humanity's unique experiences and work together to make meaningful change. I'm your host, Lori Adams Brown, and today we're diving into a topic that affects all of us. Burnout prevention. You may be one of those out there who has been trying to cultivate resilience. Maybe you've even told some of your direct reports, or you've been told by your boss that you should learn to cultivate resilience, and you're finding a lot of friction there because really burnout prevention is not a solo exercise. You can take all the bubble baths you want. You can light candles. You can practice Hygge, like I have been learning much more about in 2025 as I've recently picked up the little book of Hygge, Danish Secrets to Happy Living. Hygge is something I initially heard about years ago when I was living in very warm tropical Singapore. And now that I live in a place that actually gets cold, the Bay Area doesn't really have 4 seasons, but we get a little cold for me around here most of the year. So leaning into some of those secrets that the Danish seem to have found culturally not only helpful for them, but being rated one of the happiest places on earth. And having never been to Copenhagen or anywhere in Denmark myself, I've been learning from them. But maybe you find yourself also on this journey where you're trying to find out, how can I really build in that resilience and prevent burnout? Because if you are like many of us, you may be working in an industry where burnout levels are high. I spent many years in disaster relief, and that has very high burnout rates. I saw that happen quite a bit, just living and working in places like Sumatra, working in nonprofits, NGOs around the world. There can be really high burnout rates. And then now I work in Silicon Valley in tech, so I'm always having to put things into my life to build in these systems that prevent me from burning out. But it's something I've learned along the way is it's not just something I can fully control. It really is a group effort. And so grateful for the people in my life who encouraged me to continue these practices. I have a tribe, a village of people around me, my own personal board of directors, but also just my loved ones and friends that really have encouraged me to be healthy and be whole in these ways. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, because for me, as somebody who's lived and worked across continents, I've seen firsthand how burnout doesn't just affect individuals, but it impacts entire organizations and communities. So we're going to talk about how we prevent it. But today I'll be sharing some insights I've gathered over the years as a global leader, framed through what I call the 3 B's of burnout prevention. We're going to talk about body awareness, boundaries, and being cozy, or just being. All right, let's get started. First off, let's talk about body awareness. This is something that has only recently become part of my own personal language, my own personal journey, and something that over the last several years I have really researched about, read a lot of books and articles about, and leaned on experts who are researching this and talking about it. And you may be also somebody who's only recently come across this. And it is the kind of thing where if we don't pay attention to our bodies, burnout really sneaks up on us. And if you hear stories of people who've burnt out, I have mentors in my life, coaches, people who have led at very high levels of organizations and industries who've experienced burnout, and often their story involves just ignoring their body's signs. It really begins with these subtle signs: tight shoulders, headaches, fatigue, but too often we really ignore these signals, don't we? We push ourselves until we're running on empty. We have grit, we have determination, we have perseverance. These are all words and parts of my life. I guess it kind of worked for me in my 20s a little bit, but even then I would argue well-being suffered at times when I didn't really pay attention to myself. So Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, a book that I have read, many of you may have read. I had a therapist recommend it to me several years ago when I was walking through trauma therapy myself from workplace abuse. And the book itself really helped me understand so much of what all of this means, that we can cognitively push ourselves, but our bodies, they really keep the score. And it explains how our bodies store stress and trauma. And ignoring these signals can lead to chronic stress. And research shows that prolonged stress reduces our productivity and increases health risks. In fact, a Harvard Business Review study that found that employees with high stress levels had a 28% decrease in focus and performance. So, how can we counter this? Well, start by asking yourself, what does my body need right now? I'm with you on this. I don't do this as often as I should. It's something I'm leaning more into in 2025. And it's something I didn't do as much as I wanted to in years past. Every year's gotten a little bit better as I've become more aware of this. But each year I'm trying to increase this. Each quarter I'm trying to increase this. It's not easy. It's very countercultural. And so one way that can really be helpful is maybe to take a walk and start thinking about how your body's feeling. Do a stretch, simply taking a few deep breaths. There's lots of different breathing exercises, from box breathing to just, counting. Some people do like a 4 count in, 4 count out, and hold it for, various lengths of time. There's box breathing, which, you can look that up online. There's different ways of I've seen people talk about just breathing in quickly through your nostrils and then blowing out like you're blowing out a candle or candles on a birthday cake. So any of those breathing type of exercises can be really helpful just to suddenly realize, oh, how am I feeling? And it can reset your parasympathetic nervous system. There are people that start their day with that and then practice it throughout the day and then end their day with that. However it works for you, just adding it in can be really helpful, especially if you find yourself feeling stressed and you're not paying attention to that. But, for me, it's a journey. I'm still on this with you. I would love for your tips around this area particularly, but all 3 of the areas I'm going to talk about today, I really welcome your input. For me, not only has it been a journey, but I've had to learn to listen to my body and respect my body's limits. We're human, right? You hear me talk about this a lot, but being human leaders is so key in our world filled with new technologies, AI, which is great. It's a great partner for me, a brainstorming partner, something I use quite a bit in talent development as well as with my podcasting. But at the same time, I don't expect AI to be my best human friend and human leader. It's just, it serves a strong purpose. But the more human we are, the more we allow ourselves to be human and show up as human leaders, and give our teams the opportunities to be human. This means that we respect our limits. We do have human limits. And it's a lesson I have to continue to refine every year. That there is just a freedom in acknowledging that, reality, that we are human and that we can rest in that. And self-leadership, I always say, is really the hardest type of leadership, but it can be arguably the most important. How we show up in the room as a non-anxious presence, how we lead by example or not around this can be very impactful for our teams and the organizations that we lead where we're trying to make a difference. Okay, the second B of our 3 Bs for burnout prevention is boundaries. That word may just really throw up a lot of images for you, experiences, or even that word may not be a word that really resonates with you, but let's talk about boundaries. When I say this, I'm not talking about building walls and fortifying yourself away from all significant relationships. Really, I'm talking about just clarity. As Brene Brown says, I quote her a lot on this one. She says, clarity is kindness. So really, overwork is the leading cause of burnout. Yet research shows that working more hours doesn't equal higher productivity. So a Stanford study revealed that productivity per hour actually plummets after 50 hours a week, and employees working less than 40 hours often achieve better results. And so as leaders, we have to model healthy boundaries. That might mean setting clear on and off times, even in our global around-the-clock working environments across multiple time zones. I lead a team stretched from Taiwan to the UK to the East Coast to the West Coast here where I live in the US. And all of our time zones are different, in fact, opposite in some cases. And so that means just being clear with each other about our on and off times, even setting emails that send during their waking hours. And so you can delay that, at least on Microsoft Outlook that I use in our Microsoft Teams. But it also means setting times for our team meetings that consider everybody's well-being. Are they morning or night people? Our person in the Taiwan, if she's up in the early morning for our meeting and our guy in the UK is up late at night, just respecting that I'm not making that meeting go too long or have unnecessary meetings, and that we're considering everybody's well-being in that. And so it might mean screen-free weekends or regular breaks during the day. Remember, working smarter, not necessarily longer, is the key to resilience and sustainable success. Are there times you're going to have to work longer? Yes. But if that begins to be a pattern, this is not a healthy thing for you, for your team, for your organization, because we want more productivity. We want better decisions. We want more cognitive abilities to make good decisions and have more of our brains and bodies fully available to lead well instead of being stretched thin. We do have human limits after all. Okay. Being cozy, or just being. This is the last B. Arguably my favorite one, or at least the one I'm leaning into the most right now. The third B is all about giving yourself permission to just be. A therapist once challenged me several years back to just sit still for 30 seconds a day in my office chair and think of absolutely nothing. And do you know that was one of the hardest assignments anyone has ever given me? I'm not a restless person. I don't struggle with attention deficit or anything like that. Although I know many people who are very brilliant and productive and incredible entrepreneurs and leaders that do. It's just not how my neurological wiring is. I can sit still, not a problem. But it was the thinking of absolutely nothing that was really so hard, because especially when I'm in a work day, I'm thinking about getting productive, getting things done, having ideas about how to take things to the next level. All of these things are just kind of in my head. And so to sit there and think of nothing for even 30 seconds was really difficult for me. And it took a lot of practice, and I'm still not very good at it, if I'm being honest. So it was a lot harder than I thought. Transformative just to even be challenged with it and to try to stretch myself in this way. And really the point of it is that there's something about calming the parasympathetic nervous system during that moment and not trying to multitask and do all these things, because we need these brain breaks to reset ourselves. The idea connects to the Danish concept, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning, of Hygge, spelled Hygge. And the author of this particular book that I picked up, and there's a whole series of books that he's written, I'm probably not pronouncing it right because I don't speak Danish, although I wish I did. Make Wiking. If you're on YouTube, you can see the front. I picked this up last weekend when I was on the way to Tahoe, and there's a cute little town, Placerville, here in California. And there's a cute little bookshop called The Bookery. Highly recommend. No, they're not sponsoring this podcast, but I would highly welcome it if they want to. And they have the cutest little cats that roam around, these gray cats. And if you follow me on Instagram, I did a little video of them. They're so adorable. I call them little Hygge masters, but they roam around the little bookstore. And I found this book as soon as I walked in. It was just standing there, and I've seen books about Hygge before, but it just felt like the right time here in January, in the second week of January, where I was trying to put in some new habits that are going to help me for this year and kind of say goodbye to those that are not serving me. And so this seemed very appropriate. I've read through this book, and it's by the CEO of the Happiness Research Institute in Copenhagen. So this Danish concept of Hygge, it's around creating comfort and coziness in your environment. Studies show that embracing small comforts like a warm drink or a cozy blanket, sitting here with my cozy blanket right now, this electric blanket that my husband got me for Christmas. It's my favorite thing and it feels so nice. It can reduce stress and improve focus. I'm currently, like I said, reading this book, and it's inspired me to incorporate more of these practices into my daily life. One of the things that in the research he shows is that he asks people in Denmark to rate these different elements that might be associated with hygge. And his theory was that number one was going to be candles. In fact, number one was hot drinks, particularly coffee. Apparently, he puts the amount of coffee that people in Denmark drink compared to other parts of Europe, and it's like, wow. I'm a huge coffee drinker, so that made me very happy. And then the amount of candle wax that's produced and sold in Denmark is just higher than anywhere else. But it's part of their way of bringing light into the darkness, especially during this especially strong month of darkness throughout the year that they have around Christmas time, where they almost barely ever see the sun. But here I am with my little candle, even at my desk, this soy candle that I got as a gift from Julie Castro Abrams at our December winter fundraiser in San Francisco at the War Memorial Building's green room, where she gave us all these little presents, and it was all about bringing light. And you've probably heard me mention here on the podcast before that a few months ago, my spiritual director encouraged me to embrace more light in my life, to go toward the light. So I'm lighting candles more. And then when I read this about the way the Danes achieve so much happiness and practice hygge is by literally lighting candles. Even though it's sunny outside here in California today, I have this candle as a reminder to bring more light into my life, to be more of light in my relationships and in my sphere of influence, and also that there's always light even in the darkness that might lie ahead. And as many in the geopolitical situation around the world look ahead for what lies in store for us this year, particularly some here in the United States that have a lot of reservations about what's going to happen on January 20th at the inauguration, I know that even one little candle shining in the darkness can bring so much light. So when it comes to burning out, that means that this little light would be gone. So making sure it stays lit is not the candle's job necessarily. It's my job. It takes group effort, and that's another reminder to me that we can tell people to go take bubble baths. We can tell people to breathe and do breathing exercises, to eat healthy, to exercise, to get enough sleep. But if our systems in place are crushing people and not allowing them to build resilience and to avoid burnout, then we are also part of the problem. As you know, this podcast is about different perspectives and us all speaking into each other, challenging each other, helping each other get better. And what I want you to hear from me is that you do play a role, and also the people around you and the systems that you're a part of also play a role, that we belong to each other. We help each other, we love each other, we care for each other, and we help each other rise together. Mindfulness does play a big role as far as an individual level, and I just want to tell you as well, when it wasn't the same therapist that told me to just sit in my chair and be. Still something I'm working on, but also a different therapist really invited me into embracing mindfulness. And I've talked about this in the podcast before. That was also a very hard ask. Apparently I was not very good at it, and I'm still not great at it, but just being mindful is tough when you're always kind of pushing forward and trying to be productive. But research from the National Institute of Health show that even brief mindfulness practices can reduce stress and enhance cognitive function. So whether it's a short meditation or savoring a moment of peace, being cozy is about nurturing resilience and recharging your body and mind. So let's remind each other about that. Let's give each other that space. Let's check in with each other as friends and say, hey, are you taking time just to sit and think, or just to be cozy, or to do something that feels good? Or do you have a list of things that when you have like a moment to yourself, that's something that makes your body feel cozy or feels nice? And do you have people in your life that are reminding you of that? Are you that kind of person? That's something I want to lean into a little more this year, to encourage those in my life that are on my team, that I work with, that I spend time with, and my family, my loved ones, my friends, to just help each other out and encourage each other, that give each other permission to take care of yourself and then to take care of each other. We belong to each other. All right, so here's my call to action for you. If you're a leader, an individual contributor, I consider a leader to be anybody who has influence. And if you have influence around people of any type, whether it's your children in your home, the students in your classroom, the neighbors across the street, then you have leadership. You have a level of power that you can use for good. Here's the call to action. Burnout doesn't just hurt individuals. It costs organizations. So Gallup reports that burnout leads to a 23% increase in healthcare costs and a 63% higher likelihood of employee turnover. As leaders, we create environments where people thrive, not just survive. So Arianna Huffington reminds us in her book, The Sleep Revolution, that burnout is not the price of success. Instead, success comes when we take time to renew and refuel. Are you spending more time paying attention to refueling your car, recharging your electric vehicle, or to monitoring your own battery? We are limited. Our cars are limited, and we as humans are limited. And paying attention to our energy management levels is something I'm leaning into more this year, and I would invite you to do the same as a call to action. So let's practice those 3 B's. What are they? Body awareness, boundaries, and being cozy, or just being. We can build resilient teams that are equipped to navigate challenges with strength and clarity. Burnout prevention is not just an individual responsibility, it's a collective one. Together, we can create workplaces that prioritize well-being, foster resilience, and drive sustainable success together. Thank you for joining me today on this episode of A World of Difference. I'd love to hear how you're incorporating the 3 B's into your life and leadership. For you to share your thoughts with me on social media or in the comments section of the episode. I have a LinkedIn article I wrote about that this week called The 3 B's of Burnout Prevention for Resilient Leaders. So I'd love for you to check that out, and you can comment on it there on LinkedIn. I'm Lori Adams Brown on LinkedIn. And I would love to hear if you have any extra thoughts, any research that you've enjoyed around this topic, what you have found works and doesn't work for yourself personally, for the teams that you lead, and how you in a community aspect of loved ones, family, friends are helping each other not burn out. We want all these little candles to stay lit and not burn out. So until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Keep making a world of difference, and you are so loved. Before we go, I just want to take a moment to thank you. Yes, you. The fact that you're here, tuning in, leaning into these conversations, and doing the hard and beautiful work of making a difference in this world, it means everything to me. In this episode, if it spoke to you, if it brought you healing, hope, or even just a new perspective, I'd love for you to help us spread the word. Subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone you think might need to hear it. Your support helps this community grow and also helps us to keep having these important conversations. You are such a vital part of this journey. And every time you listen, every time you share, you remind me of why we do this, because you are out there making a difference in your own beautiful, messy, and imperfect way. And that matters more than you know. So thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for making the world a little brighter, a little kinder, and a little more whole. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep making a difference. You are loved.